Hello, everybody. Welcome to the NC podcast. My name is Natasha Collins, and I am the host and founder of NC Real Estate, which includes its members club for landlords and property investors to come and build profitable property portfolios that completely align with their goals. If you haven't got my master spreadsheet freebie yet, you are going to want to have it because this is where you control your whole property portfolio from. It's going to have everything, including your mortgage details, your contractor details. Essentially, once you've got that filled out, it's a 4-click process to get from having all of that information to outsourcing it to your VA or your managing agent or however you want to do it. But having that one spreadsheet filled out is absolutely going to change your life. It is how I manage my property portfolio from anywhere in the world. That plus a Skype phone line, which has my London number on it, and my MacBook. That is it. So if you want to get that spreadsheet, head to ncrealestate.co.uk/master spreadsheet. The link is in the show notes below, so go get it. Today, I am so excited. I have got Aren Deu on the podcast with me today. Aren is a property investor, health and fitness expert, and mental health advocate. He has some incredible outlooks on life in terms of mindset, overcoming mental health challenges, and is the host of the Find Your Voice podcast. Hi, Aren.
How are you doing? You okay?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. And I just made a note here that I need that spreadsheet that you just mentioned as well. That sounds absolutely awesome.
Yes, go get it.
I will do.
So today we are going to be talking a lot around property investment. We'll get started there, and then we're going to be jumping into mental health, which I know you want to have the conversation about, and I am always open for a conversation on mental health and property investment. It's something that is kind of guided my career, and it's things that I have to work on daily. So I'm hoping you can give us some really, really good tips. But to start off with, how did you get started in property, and what's your strategy?
Sure. So I actually started in property twice. So I think I was 25 a long time ago when I actually bought my first property. It was a buy-to-let. Didn't really know much about property other than I had a bit of money. My mom thought it was a good idea. I obviously agree with anything my mom says. So we ended up buying this buy-to-let locally. It was actually from a motivated seller, which again, I knew nothing about. And that was kind of it. That was my introduction to property. Just put a tenant in there and left it and thought, that's fine. And I'll carry on working till 65 as a project manager in London. And then about 4 years ago, I actually went into it full time. And I went into it full time actually off the back of adversity. So not to make this an emotional podcast or anything, but my uncle passed away, and I sat with my cousin at his funeral, who is a landlord of amazing portfolio. Like, his portfolio is incredible. And I had no idea. I had no idea he was a landlord. I had no idea he was in property. But he taught me about time freedom in terms of he was able to spend the last 6 months of my uncle's life with him. And he had that flexibility to really spend time with him. And it just opened my eyes, because here I was thinking I was a smart one in the family. I had the degree, I had the masters, I had the diplomas. Yet I was happily going to work till 65. And he had just shown me something like another possibility, basically. So I thought, this is interesting. I did what most people do, and I went and spent like £13,000 on a course, literally nothing left on my debit card. And, I was promised that I'm going to be so successful and have the biggest portfolio in the world. So I went down that route, and I just really went full time into it. In terms of strategy wise, when I started this game, I had a certain amount of money from working in London, and I've been working since I was about 15, that I started very small. So I went up to Stoke, where the houses are a lot cheaper than where I am in Birmingham. And I tried to flip a property initially. My God, that was like the worst property in the world. And I had to like refurb it 3 times. But what I was doing was, every time I was making mistakes, is I was learning from it. So then I went onto a bigger project. And then I went on to HMOs. We do service accommodation. And more recently now, like 4 years in, we've got commercial conversion, and we're doing planning for land. And we just signed an option on 14 units of a land development. So it looks like I'm doing the big stuff now, but it really has come from literally starting with like the small stuff, starting with my own money initially, whereas now in the last 2 or 3 deals, we've started to get investors to really fund our deals.
Ooh, how are you faring at the moment with COVID-19 and
in terms of the property stuff?
In terms of the property stuff. We'll start there before we...
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my tenants isn't paying me, which is always a delight, as they do. I think they read like one line from the government description saying that apparently they don't need to pay. I'm not sure what line that is. But in terms of generally, like, the portfolio is fine. But the site that we were doing, we were 5 weeks away from completion, and we had an offer for 750 on it, which was brilliant. It was like such an amazing return. Luckily, the buyer's still happy to wait, because obviously nobody can really do anything. But it's just that frustration of, we needed to sell or refinance that site in order to move forward to the 14 units that we're doing. But again, not without sounding a cliche or anything, the most important thing is that we all just come out of this with, hopefully, like, with our sanity, with like less people dying and stuff. And I know, not to make it again morbid or anything, but that's the most important thing. But it is frustrating in terms of, it was my year where I was like, finally going to make some money from property. This is finally working. We have 2 great deals. But yeah, it's a frustration of workers not wanting to come in. Some have been furloughed. But we've managed to get 2 people out actually last Tuesday. So we're doing like 2 people, and they're just spread across the site, across the 10 flats. And just, that's it really. How about yourself? How are you finding that?
Yeah, it was good. I have a development going on in New Jersey at the moment, which is just across from central Manhattan. So we are 17 minutes on the bus from Times Square. Wow. We've got hoarding up, and inside we have got contractors working, but at a social distance. For those of you who are not aware of the US market, we're in a bit of a situation where if people go jobless, they don't get healthcare.
Wow.
Right. So in a bid to try and keep our contractors going, and you have to give them work.
Right.
Because otherwise they don't get healthcare, their family don't have healthcare. So that's like the catch-22 situation where, yes, we would more than happily stop, but in order to keep our contractors safe, we have to allow them to work. They have all the necessary PPE. They are staying at a distance. So we have one day the plumber will go in, he's put all the gas in. We're then going to have our electrics done. And then hopefully what we're kind of hoping for is, because Andrew Cuomo has now said that on the 15th of May, they might start opening up construction and give us guidelines around that. We then hope we can get in and get all of our structure and everything kind of built out from there. It's not that we're trying to go against advice. It's kind of like, well, that's the only way that we support our contractors. So
absolutely,
that's why we're still moving forward. It's not rushed. We don't have any extra interest to pay until the end of the year, so that doesn't matter. Serviced accommodation is now turned into long-term lets, and I've been helping out local university students who weren't able to get home when the university shut. So actually, it's just we're doing things very differently.
Yeah.
And as long as I can help and we can get things moving forward, touch wood, as of today, I've not had any void period, which is
fantastic.
Incredible.
Fantastic.
So it was just a mindset shift, and it was just thinking, okay, well, how can I help? Not I need to make huge amounts of money from this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I really like, because a lot of people have done that. We have 4 service accommodations. I'm not taking no credit for this, by the way, because my partner does everything. And the first thing he did was just straight to the NHS just to help them. So it's nice when people are doing that, and we're not necessarily just thinking profit, because this is like a crazy time where we just need to try and come out of it together and just try and help each other.
That's the only thing I can think about right now as well. I mean, there's stuff where I can understand that people are getting frustrated. There's all the tribunals now on hold. I mean, I had leasehold tribunal cases going through, which do desperately need to be sorted, because it's about leaks on roofs and getting properties repaired and maintained. But you know what? We'll get back to that after this period is over.
Absolutely.
All we can do. So what I need to ask you, because you always come across so positive, so uplifting, so kind of, things don't seem to stop you in your tracks. Even when you have adversity and bad times, you seem to be the person that keeps going. So what motivates you to get up in the morning and keep moving towards your goals?
Sure. So I definitely have those days where I'm bad. Probably 3 hours ago, you would have probably caught me at the wrong time. But in all seriousness, like there's a few things that have happened in my life and I've been exposed to that have really shaped me into the person that I am today. So the first one is my siblings. So I'm very blessed to come from a loving family who foster children. So 4 of my siblings have come from the care system. Now, generally speaking, when you come from the care system, there is a lack of something, like a lack of resource, for example. And these children have seen adversity like on a whole new level. Like, I'm not talking about I never got a bike for Christmas. I'm talking like really horrific stuff. So my younger siblings taught me more than I ever thought I would ever learn from children. So when I used to live with them, I recognize that I have the ability, for example, to have this conversation with you now, or to drive my car tomorrow, or to renovate a house, or travel to New Jersey, for example. And they don't have that luxury because their life, they were dealt the bad cards effectively. They have learning difficulties. Their development is very, very slow. So when I look at my brothers, Josh and Kyle, I instantly feel like my heart bleeds for them. But then at the same time, I feel as their older brother, I should try and do as much as I can because I have the capability. And I always live by control the controllables. And I'm like, yeah, I want to feel sorry for myself some days, which I absolutely do. And I'm not saying I don't, but they remind me every day that my life could have been so different. I could have been them. They could have been me. So that's definitely one of the things that I use as kind of motivation. The second thing is my goals. As I'm sure like yourself and anyone listening to this podcast, we've all got huge goals, and that goal can be anything. I'm not here to say your goal is less more important than mine, for example, but my goals are always been about impact and service. It's what I've been taught from my parents. They both come from the NHS. My wife works for the NHS. I seem to only attract NHS people, but I love that, and it's come from a place of having an impact, and that's not just in the health and fitness, but also the mental space as well, the mental health side. So even me and my wife now, we started a passion project, which we're so excited about because it's like we're going to try and create like a superfood blend to give people like that they can take on a daily basis that will just put the odds in their favor in terms of enhancing their health, which will help their physical health and their mental health. So everything I do is like aligned to that. And when you have stuff for purpose, like the podcast, for example, it's so easy to wake up and just move forward because it's not about you. It's about maybe that one person who needs to hear that a grown man in his 30s is suffering with anxiety, so they don't feel out of place, that they don't feel that there's something wrong with them. Because I used to feel that. I used to feel like, is there something wrong with me? Like, I'll watch a show and like full transparency, and if like say X Factor or American Idol or something like that, and if somebody's got through, I get riled up as if like I'm about to cry, and I'm thinking, what is going on here? And especially when it first happened, because I was like, this can't be normal, especially for a guy. Like, I understand if there's a sad scene or something, but I'm like just genuinely overwhelmed. And then I started to understand myself a lot more. But in terms of motivation and stuff, those are my main triggers. But I do have a crazy one for anyone out there, and this might not work, is if you're really struggling, I call it morbid motivation. I wake up in the morning, I think of what's the worst that could happen. And it can be is like something bad happening to my partner, my wife, or my brother, or my mom and dad. And instantly that fuels something inside me to really get out of bed and like start working, because this might be your last opportunity to give them everything that you've ever wanted to give them, if that makes sense. So I have all these different ones that I would just think, okay, today I need to pull on this, or today I need to pull on that. But yeah, I'd like to, I'm glad that you said that. Obviously I bring positivity and stuff, but it's not always like that. You know, we all have our demons and battles that we face, but it's just about trying to overcome them and working to be 1% better each day.
Oh yes, I so get that. And it's also the reflection, isn't it? You wake up, you have a bad day, and you think, oh my God, I am handling things in the worst way possible. And then it's the reflective moment on that. I guess for me,
absolutely,
that's something I have to work on a lot. If I'm in not the right mindset, I have coaches who then go back over that with me, and we look at, why did I react like that? What is the teachable moment? And so
love that.
Then you come back to it and you think, okay, now I can tell people this is actually how I should have dealt with it. And this is how I deal with it going forward. But if we don't have the bad times, we don't know about the good times, do we?
Absolutely. 100%. Everything you said there, and I've got it written down somewhere in one of these boards here, is the word audit. So I'd say in the last 4 or 5 months, me and my wife will sit down either at night in bed or just before we go into bed, and we audit the day. So that is, did I lose my temper for no reason, for example? Or was I overly frustrated at a situation or a traffic jam, for example? And it could just be little things, but obviously we know each of them and we both work from home all the time. We notice that when somebody wasn't their best self, and just that auditing process, I can't explain like how many times we think we've had a perfect day, but we could have been so much better. I could have smiled maybe at the person when we were going for a walk yesterday. So I had my headphones in and I was really like antisocial, whereas the wife will say good morning to everyone, whereas I'm a little bit more shy. And I was thinking, actually, no, I should, like, next time I'll try and acknowledge people and just say hello. So it's little things, and that auditing process, whether you got a coach or you just do that with your loved ones, I think is so, so important. So the next day you can just have a better impact, and it could just be as simple as just smiling to someone. Like, I can't explain. As a shy person, I always run with my head down. I walk with my head down. When I started, like, lifting my eyes and just, like, giving a little smile to people, they would smile back, and I just feel instantly so much happier. And I hope I brought them some level of happiness as well.
Yeah.
In that.
Such an amazing idea. I find that really hard at the moment because we have to go out wearing full face masks.
Right.
And that makes me feel shy. So I know what you mean when you look at people and you at least smile from your eyes, or it makes such a difference.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in having a conversation around mental health and being in the property investment industry. Whilst it might not necessarily be the cause of mental health challenges, there are certainly detrimental factors: loneliness, losing money, difficult people, challenges that come back to haunt you. How have you coped with that?
Wow. In that moment, probably not well, if I'm being honest. But again, the self-awareness side and the self-reflection, I'd like to think I managed it quite well. So yeah, everything you just mentioned there, I can 100% relate in terms of the loneliness, people, the challenges, the projects. Do not come into this game thinking it's going to be really, really easy. But yeah, just to answer your question, I think the first thing is a self-awareness exercise that I always play, and just using my resources around me. So recognizing that I'm very, very fortunate. I have friends, lifelong friends, and quite a few of them that I can just call and I can have that conversation with. Because one of the things, especially with mental health, or if you're struggling even in property, it's having the ability to just call someone and say, you know what, I'm having a really, really bad day. And they might not necessarily need to know the answer. So if you're on the other side of the phone, just listen. Sometimes, like, listening is like the greatest thing, to know somebody's there. That's really helped me. So that's kind of been like my therapy, I suppose. The second is when I make mistakes, I make sure I don't make them mistakes again, because it costs a hell of a lot of money. And when I started up in Stoke and I was using my own money, it was all I had. And that thought of, if I lose this again, like, that's it for me. I need to go back to 15. I need to work another 15 years and then start again. And I can't afford to do that. So you have to really look at it. And it's quite difficult, because when you look at it, you have to take accountability for everything, because you've made all of those choices. You've shaken those JV agreement hands. You've accepted that builder to come in without the contract. I've done all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, that's all I knew. So then all you can do from there is really just try and be better the next time and just try and improve from that. And then the third way is, while this is going on, it's very easy to feel guilty or beat yourself up or think, I'm a failure, or I should be better, for example. But I've always tried to do like self-love. And I know self-love is like a cliche now, but I've always tried to have at least 2 hours to an hour a day. I mean, 1 hour is like 4% of the day. We should all have 4% of the day to exercise, to journal, to meditate, to do the things you love, and maybe avoid the things you don't like. So just listen to music, for example, or just completely chill out. So that's kind of what I do as well. So I think collectively, like, doing those 3 things really, really helps. And now, like I said to you prior to recording this show, like, my property journey now is moving nicely. Hopefully, we all come out of this safe and well, but everything's finally moving on. And I'm grateful, so grateful for those lessons. But yeah, in the midst of it, I'm just thinking, not again, Aren. Like, how many times do I have to keep building resilience or learning mistakes? But then this is why I'm so against having that, like, experienced investor. I'm just a property investor. I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm not an expert in this. Do not call me an expert, because tomorrow something will go wrong and it'll be a new challenge for me that I have to figure out.
Well, we all do it. We all do it. There's times where you stand there. I remember I had a bridging deal go really badly wrong, and I thought I'd got myself out of it. And then the bridging lender decided to sue me. And I remember being on the side of the Thames and no one being around and just yelling, shit. And that was one of the low moments. And you look back on it now and you realize that you get through it, right?
Absolutely.
But my gosh, in the situation, it can feel like your world is just collapsing, because that could absolutely ruin you. But looking back, it was never going to ruin me.
Of course, yeah.
But at the time, my gosh, like, it's just a bigger challenge and a bigger challenge and a bigger challenge, right?
Absolutely. If I can just add to that, if I may, because I know that feeling. Like I've not been by a canal, but I've just been like ready to tear my hair out, and like I've had panic attacks as a result of
Yes.
it with my anxiety. It's like the worst feeling. There's a great book, and hopefully people can check this book out. It's by Dale Carnegie, and it's called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And he mentions something in there, which is a game, actually, another game that me and my wife play. We don't play exciting games like Monopoly or Scrabble. We tend to play like these mindset games. But this game is like fantastic, and it's called What's the Worst That Could Happen. So especially for the last 6 months to year where I've really got on top of my mental health and stuff, it's, for example, the bridging lender is going to sue me. What's the actual worst that can happen? But start it like really being like 0.0001% chance. For example, I might die. Now, the chances of him suing you and you dying at the same time are very, very low. So you write that down first. And then you just continue that list until it's, okay, I might have to pay some money, or I might get a CCJ against my name, whatever it is. And you keep writing it. But you're already at number 7 or 8 by now. And you've started to see the gratitude that you haven't died. Your partner hasn't died. You know, your dog's okay. And slowly it'll start to calm you down. It's, especially write it down as well. That's quite therapeutic. And like my therapists have shown me that as well. And then when you write that down, in the next column, maybe when you feel a bit better, is just write a solution. What could I do to stop myself from dying? Just stay indoors and, you know, don't run into traffic, for example. What can I do if I'm avoiding the CCJ? Let's get legal advice. So that really helps break it down. But I understand that in that moment, sometimes thinking clearly is like the last thing that we're doing.
No, I mean,
I know.
and just to put it out there for everybody, the bridging lender didn't end up suing me because
Good.
we ended up going back to, this was years ago, but just so that people aren't now afraid that the bridging lenders are going to sue them. The story was, on the day we were going to exchange, the bridging lender couldn't figure out the completion statement. We had 3 separate completion statements within 4 hours. It ended up being that they wanted me to put in an extra £10,000. Couldn't find that within the 4 hours, so we ended up having to pull out. It was just one of those terrible deals, and they tried to sue me for the cost to them of them jumping through all the hoops and me not paying them. And we ended up countersuing and saying, look, you absolutely messed us around for the 4 hours before we were meant to exchange. We ended up settling with us paying them £400 worth of costs, but that was that.
Good.
So just
Good.
so everybody
Thank
knows
God.
that just doesn't happen as a normal thing.
Absolutely.
It was a terrible deal.
Wow.
And it honestly, I can't believe that it ended that way, but it did.
Yeah.
So just so
Good.
that people
Yes.
now aren't in the fear of like bridging lenders suing
Absolutely.
them for nothing. That's what happened.